Today we are examining the highly contentious details surrounding the Charlie Kirk shooting incident in Utah. Specifically, we're focusing on the voluminous inconsistencies and, quite frankly, the missing evidence detailed in the original reporting.
Right. And the central question that really jumps out from this material is, it's profound, really. Do all these things together, the missing security archives, the scientifically anomalous physical evidence, the, let's say, overtly suspicious behavior from security and officials, does that definitively prove a coordinated, high-level cover-up? Something designed to conceal a multi-shooter plot? Or can these severe anomalies be more accurately explained as just, gross incompetence?
Before we start, hit that subscribe button. Join a community that dares to speak the truth. If you love real talk and deep discussions, subscribe now. You'll feel right at home here.
Maybe organizational failure in a, chaotic, high-stakes environment.
Evidence points overwhelmingly toward intentional orchestration and a subsequent, immediate narrative control effort. We are looking at a scenario, I believe, that requires foreknowledge and precise timing. It's the two shooters, one cover-up thesis, essentially.
Okay. Conversely, while I fully acknowledge that the material documents staggering irregularities, you can't ignore them, I am hesitant to conclude that this represents some kind of flawless, centralized conspiracy. I'd argue that attributing all these failures to a highly controlled, almost choreographed execution, that stretches the interpretation, perhaps beyond the available evidence. We are likely seeing a combination of things: organizational chaos, certainly panic, catastrophic mismanagement, especially in the immediate aftermath of a crisis. And that chaos, I think, is what enabled evidence to be destroyed or simply disappear.
Well, my position is rooted in the physical evidence. It defies the official narrative and, frankly, standard ballistics. The material reports that the victim was struck by a high-powered .306 caliber bullet. It supposedly traveled straight into the front left lower side of his neck, exploded his artery, and did not exit. Now, a high-power hunting round like that, it's designed for maximum kinetic energy transfer, sure, but it should, almost without exception, have exited the body cleanly, especially in a neck trajectory like that. The reported non-exit is, as the experts cited have said, it's basically a forensic impossibility under normal circumstances.
This anomaly alone forces skepticism. But then you pair it with the complete absence of trauma signature, specifically no immediate blood on the victim's bleach white shirt. Now, this is despite a reported severed artery that, medically speaking, should result in an instant spray. It strongly suggests the scene was somehow controlled or maybe actively altered. This lack of visible trauma until the victim falls out of frame, that's the visual indicator for me of staging. And if the scene was staged, that implies planning. And planning, I might add, that seems corroborated by the footage showing the security guards performing a precise, synchronized glance at their watches right before the shot. That feels like an operational signal, premeditated coordination.
Okay. I see why you think that combination of evidence suggests a tight, predetermined schedule. I really do. But I approach this aggregation of failures from the perspective of, organizational collapse under intense pressure. Yes, the material details catastrophic failures in, let's call it, asset preservation. But that doesn't necessarily equal centralized orchestration.
But the scale of the failure...
Consider the tens of thousands of dollars worth of high-definition campus cameras that just conveniently failed, leaving us only with grainy, shaky, user-generated footage. This systematic failure of high-quality surveillance, alongside the subsequent missing security archives, it could be consistent with a panicking, disorganized production team and campus staff just severely mishandling a crisis. They might have prioritized immediate extraction and minimizing, public exposure over rigorous evidence preservation. And while the critical witness statements about two shots, like those from Nick, the student organizer, and the two women near the west bleachers, those are vital, absolutely vital, in challenging the single shooter line. But the immediate leap to choreographed execution, it ignores the documented difficulty the human ear has in accurately discerning shot direction, number, timing, especially during sudden, high-stress traumatic events. Chaos creates contradictory evidence. That evidence is then often exploited or misrepresented, sure, but it isn't inherently proof of a complex conspiracy pulling the strings from the start.
The issue, though, isn't simply conflicting memories. As important as those are, the issue is physics and visible recorded reality. I feel I have to foreground the physical anomalies because they form the baseline impossibility of the official story.
Okay.
Let's expand on that ballistics paradox. A .306 hunting round, unlike, say, a smaller pistol caliber round, carries immense kinetic energy. It's specifically designed to pass through large game. When it hits soft tissue and bone, that energy transfer is violent. It creates a massive exit wound unless it hits something that causes catastrophic fragmentation or a very unusual deflection. For it to enter the neck, sever a major artery, and then just stop dead without exiting, it suggests one of two things. Either the round was specifically engineered to fail in a way that minimizes visible damage, which is itself highly intentional, or that the description of the wound channel, or maybe even the projectile used, is fundamentally incorrect. And if the artery exploded, as medical experts confirm it should have, we should have seen instant, high-pressure blood spray. Yet they bleach white shirt, spotless. This missing trauma signature, coupled with the anomalous ballistics, it pushes this beyond mere inconsistency into the realm of, I think, intentional concealment of the wound's true nature, or, as I contend, active scene staging designed to control the visual outcome. It's an impossibility that just happens to serve the single-shooter narrative perfectly.
I absolutely acknowledge the severity of the medical inconsistencies you're raising. The spotless shirt, the non-exiting high-power hunting round, they present a profound challenge to the official report. I agree. They demand an explanation far, far better than what has been provided.
Right. However, while the physical appearance is deeply suspicious, yes, and suggestive of control, the lack of an exit wound, look, while it's rare for that caliber, it could point toward a highly specific, complex, perhaps unforeseen anomaly in trajectory, or potentially a flaw in the round itself that led to extreme deformation or maybe tumbling upon impact with the spine or some other hard structure. Anomalous ballistics do happen, rarely, but they happen. So attributing the non-exit solely to an intentional violation of physics designed for a cover-up, it risks overlooking chaotic, random factors. I mean, think about it. If the goal was a perfectly orchestrated event, why would the orchestrators use a known high-power round that inherently risks an enormous, messy exit wound that they would then have to conceal?
Unless concealment was part of the plan from the outset?
Perhaps. But it seems, arguably more likely that the physical anomalies are the result of maybe an unforeseen, chaotic factor, combined with perhaps poor initial forensic assessment, and then a subsequent panicked cover-up of the resulting mess, rather than a successful, pre-planned attempt at staging a clean, controlled execution from the get-go.
Okay, you focus heavily on the physical side as potentially chaotic, but let's pivot to operational integrity, the behavior of the security team. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy the synchronized watch check as simply circumstantial or something easily dismissed. Yes, it's an instant captured on grainy footage, but interpreting it merely as checking the time or comms or reacting to tension, it feels inadequate given the context.
But is it irrefutable proof?
It's highly suggestive, but let's look at what follows. You brought up the man in a gray t-shirt. His behavior, you say, is calculated and self-motivated. Okay, he first sprints away to film the parking lot. You suggest perhaps securing evidence or protecting himself, then returns to the stage to adjust equipment and finally removes the camera's memory card. Now, you see this as perhaps a rogue element acting opportunistically?
Right. Someone acting locally, maybe private security or production, trying to limit immediate liability by destroying the primary evidence. Calculated, yes, but motivated locally.
That's a powerful distinction. The idea of motivated self-preservation. But the timing of the destruction is what ties the operation, in my view, back to a coordinated plan. The purposeful movements of the man in gray, they demonstrate control and calculation, not panic. Think about the sequence. If he was simply panicking about liability, why sprint away to secure alternate footage first? He was potentially confirming the successful exit of a secondary party, perhaps, or confirming the successful execution of the timing before returning to the essential task, narrative control at the main camera. And critically, this calculated removal of evidence which has never been seen again, let's remember, occurs immediately after the synchronized watch alert moments before the shot. The watch check acts as the go signal for the shot. The subsequent theft of the memory card by someone close to the scene, who was demonstrably focused on securing alternate angles first, is the immediate timed cleanup effort. This timing links the security team's apparent foreknowledge directly to the evidence erasure effort. It suggests control over the narrative began instantaneously, suggesting not just opportunism, but a planned phase of the operation.
Okay.
And if we needed any more evidence that this was an operation of high-level control rather than just localized chaos, we must look at the post-incident behavior of official actors, the coercion of witnesses. To me, the most damning evidence of a comprehensive cover-up is the aggressive effort by federal agents to control the narrative after the event. The material reports agents coming around, trying to, quote, implant memories into key witnesses, repeatedly insisting they heard one shot, not two, and even telling witnesses to essentially let it go or risk being pulled into the investigation themselves. This is not standard procedure for seeking truth. This is textbook state actor behavior securing alignment. Nick's account, the student organizer, that it sounds weird and conspiratorial, but that agents were actively trying to force a single-shot belief, that's highly alarming. This aggressive alignment effort directly explains why crucial corroborating evidence, like the statements from those two women near the West bleachers who reported 2 distinct gunshots, why that never made it to the mainstream media. It seems they were filtered out by targeted coercion.
That's a compelling argument, definitely. And the allegations of aggressive behavior by federal agents, coercing witnesses, attempting to implant memories, that's utterly unacceptable. It represents a serious breakdown in investigative integrity, no question.
Right. However, we do need to consider the context of these state actors. Have you considered that aggressive, frankly, poor investigative practice, combined with the rapid securing of a high-profile, politically volatile scene by federal agents? That can look like a conspiracy without necessarily being a high-level orchestration plan from the beginning. In the hours following an incident like this, agents would have been under immense public political pressure to establish a simple, clean timeline, fast. So while the claim of threatening students is highly unethical, deeply disturbing, it could suggest a messy, politically pressured operation prioritizing a unified public statement over, maybe, evidentiary fidelity. That's a hallmark of gross incompetence, yes, and administrative urgency, which is bad enough, but it doesn't necessarily prove the preceding event, the shooting itself, was choreographed by 2 shooters who then had the perfect federal cleanup crew waiting in the wings, prearranged. The coercion could be interpreted as frantic damage control reacting to a chaotic reality rather than executing a pre-planned cover story.
But the pattern, you see, the pattern is simply too consistent and too mutually reinforcing to be dismissed as mere organizational incompetence piled on top of chaos. We have scientifically anomalous physical evidence, the missing trauma signatures, the ballistics paradox, strongly suggesting the scene was prepared or altered. We have evidence pointing to foreknowledge and operational control, the synchronized behavior of the guards, the immediate, calculated disappearance of all high-definition footage via a theft that appears timed to the event itself. And finally, we have the subsequent overt narrative coercion by federal agents, specifically focusing on eliminating accounts of a second shot. All these factors combine. They suggest this was not just a messy event. They suggest an event that was designed to be concealed immediately after it occurred, pointing toward a coordinated effort involving multiple actors and likely a pre-planned narrative structure.
Okay. The totality of the evidence, I absolutely agree, reveals a shocking level of chaos, systematic evidence destruction, and post-incident mismanagement that should raise profound alarms about the entire official response. I fully agree the official story is untenable as it stands.
Good.
However,
Attributing every single failure, from the grainy footage to the maybe coincidental operational timing of the security guards to the admittedly strange bullet behavior, attributing all of that to a singular, highly coordinated, and seemingly flawless cover-up that still risks overstating the evidence we have for absolute control and intent from start to finish.
The narrative remains fractured, yes, but maybe not because of a flawless, complex conspiracy, but because multiple, perhaps panic-stricken or individually motivated actors failed spectacularly to secure the truth in the aftermath. They left a trail of inconsistencies so large that, frankly, any definitive explanation becomes incredibly difficult to substantiate fully. But we must agree, surely, that the material demands much deeper scrutiny of the official account. The inconsistencies documented, especially that vanishing memory card, the clear conflict regarding the number of shots, and the strange physical evidence, these remain critical points of concern, points that listeners and investigators really must reconcile with the official story.
Absolutely. I think the debate surrounding whether this was primarily a coordinated orchestration or a spectacular cascade of official failure, it only underscores the fundamental fact that the truth is far from settled here. And the official explanation, as presented, lacks credibility on multiple critical fronts.